You're listening to a download from the outdoorstation.co.uk.
Number 313.
And what a night it turned out to be. That rainstorm that Lee and I saw approaching just as we were trying to enjoy the last drink of the day kept going through the night and turned into a hell of a storm, along with the wind to accompany it. And it really did give both tents a good battering and a good testing. But I'm glad to say we are both safe and well, dry, albeit not had much sleep because the noise it was making was phenomenal. Having said that, we're 6 o'clock now, and so as it's slowly getting light now, we're just sort of resting, dozing a bit, and I'll probably start to make a move, I guess between 8 and 9 somewhere, for what hopefully is just a 10 or 12 mile walk into town, where no doubt once we get to the campsite we will be washing and drying and relaxing and then eating and drinking as one would do in the circumstances. But yes, a very testing night. But glad to say, no leaks, no problems, no rips, no tears, and all the pegs are still fully intact. So that makes one feel a lot happier about the next few days of going back into the Highlands for our return trip to Aviemore. We just had a good brew at the Bothy, just along from Bruar Lodge. The weather thankfully eased up after I made the recording earlier on this morning, or middle of the morning, or whatever it was, at 6 o'clock-ish. The weather thankfully eased a bit. We managed to get ourselves sorted and out and along the track, even though it hasn't been raining. Obviously it's been very wet underfoot, and there's certainly plenty of water around. The Bothy's a sweet little bothy, definitely nice here with 4 raised sleeping platforms, just one small room, little fire, table and chairs in the middle, nicely looked after and obviously well respected by people who come this way as well as the local estate. And I'm sure a lot of people do appreciate it. Looking at the comments in the Bothy book, people seem to appreciate the fact that the weather seems to be pretty atrocious when they come this way, so obviously you're always very grateful of any sort of shelter when things are like that. But a bit of a hairy night. We started talking with Lee just before I got my head down last night, but the rain kicked in, and didn't it kick in with a fashion?
Big time. The wind, rain, it was terrible blowing the tent about, but we withstood the force of the gale, didn't it? So,
yeah, real outdoor men.
Yeah, that's recommend.
Yeah. Well, we as real outdoor men we are. We were walking along the path this morning and came across the stalking season just started here, beginning of October. So there was a chap there leading a horse, which was obviously to carry the deer back if they caught one, and he was wearing sort of a wax jacket and sort of general country casuals, wasn't he? And I think he was expecting to spend a few hours up in the hills while we're all our Gore-Tex lightweight, Pertex, whatever. He looked, but a friendly chap though.
Very friendly, yeah, very friendly. But he's wax jacket and that. He could put it in a drying room tonight, can't he?
Yeah.
Although we might be able to actually tonight when we get down to the campsite.
Yeah, that's true. I got the campsite there. But he was saying that the albino, the white deer that we saw, is actually really valuable.
Yeah, he was saying, wasn't it? Very unusual, and nobody actually knows where it is because they're frightened of it being shot and sold. But although he didn't want to look at the picture, did he, Bob?
No. But I think, as you said, I think his boss was turning up behind him in the Land Rover with the client. And the client, there was definitely foreign plates on the car as we went past the lodge there. So I should imagine they're paying an awful lot of money to go and shoot some deer.
Well, that's right, I suppose. Yeah, that's a fair comment. But they was all very friendly and and helpful, I presume. If we would have got in trouble, he said there was a barn we could have stayed in last night, didn't he?
Yeah, and he said he'd seen a few tents before now pitched in the wrong place when the river was coming up.
Yeah, that's right. We did wonder when the rain kept pouring and pouring whether the burns round us would overflow, but luckily they didn't.
No, it was a good choice of yours, that, Lee. In fact, it was the only choice. Anyway, we've got a Land Rover track now, and the cloud is definitely there, but it doesn't seem to be raining. Land Rover track all the way into Blair Atholl, and then beer and chips tonight and massive celebrations. And I'm sure once we've eaten and received great merriment in the local, we probably won't be able to move, I should imagine.
Oh, that's it. And of course, Tony coming in the morning.
Yeah.
And hopefully breakfast in the Atholl Arms at about 8 in the morning, hopefully.
What time's his train arriving?
I think Tony's train comes in at 6:30, I think.
So you're going to go and fetch him then?
No, he's coming to us.
Oh, is he?
Definitely,
Still. Excellent. All right, then. Well, we'll catch up with you a bit later on. We'll fill you in with the sights and surroundings and salubrious shopping centre that is Blair Atholl, if it's anything that Lee's described to go by. So we'll catch up with you later.
You're listening to The Outdoors Station.
Award-winning producers of podcasts to inform, inspire, entertain, and encourage people to enjoy a healthy outdoors lifestyle.
Morning. It's Wednesday morning, and as you can hear, the world is coming alive. We made it down to Blair Atholl yesterday early afternoon, actually, and walked. Sort of the path took us through a wooded area, and then all of a sudden we found ourselves in the Blair Atholl Castle Gardens, which was a bit weird. Anyway, Tony seemed to know his way around, so we sort of skirted around the castle, and then the main entrance to the castle is also the entrance to the campsite, or the campsite comes off it. So we came in to the campsite, which is very luxurious. Facilities are fantastic, and we also had a result as regards costing, because we were both under the impression that to camp here would be at £15 a night, which is blooming expensive. But as it was sort of off season and we could share a pitch, we both got on one pitch for £9 between us, which was very reasonable. So after sorting ourselves out and having a really good long hot shower and doing all the sort of things that you do and washing gear and that sort of stuff, we went into the village. And I must admit, Tony was absolutely right. I'm very disappointed with what's here. There's just the hotel, which I'll come on to in a second. A small post office, which is chintzy, and selling usual cards and that sort of stuff. And a sort of a mini independent supermarket type thing, which is where we're going to head in a minute to get some bread and whatever else before we start off. So once we'd checked everything out, we obviously went down to the hotel for a meal. There's a sort of the posh end and also the walker's entrance, so we went into the Bothy bar, and frankly just disappointed. The whole feel of the place is really it's all part and parcel of the Blair Atholl money making machine, and although it was sort of chintzy and Scottish in its theme, it just looked very, very tired, and certainly the service and the people were quite complacent. I've seen it before in places like Stratford-on-Avon or whatever. They know they're going to get tourists, so they don't really make an effort, and it's the same sort of feel here. But we had a meal which was disappointing. I sent mine back as soon as I got it because it was still cold in the middle, that type of thing. The starter was some homemade pate, and they only give you 3 little oat cakes to go with it, which is ridiculous. So I had to get some more of those. It's just little stuff like that spoiled it. But we spent the evening in the bar and had a good few beers before heading back and getting the house down. It's just gone 7:30 now, and Tony's should have arrived on the train, which we heard depart earlier on. And I think I can just hear Lee talking, so I've got a feeling he's arrived here, so he may have stopped for a coffee in the hotel or something. The other thing is about the site is that obviously the main, I don't know what it is, A road, which is bypass round Blair Atholl. God, what a noise! I mean, it was like a motorway all night long, so you get this really deep roar of traffic.
So I'm looking forward to getting back in the hills, quite frankly. It'll be good to get into the wide open spaces again and a bit of peace and quiet, and appreciate the tranquility for as long as we can. And as I've said before, and certainly everybody says really that comes to Scotland, we're very, very lucky with what Scotland offers. Their land access rights are unique, and we've got to treasure them for as long as possible. So time to get up, get ourselves sorted, see if Tony's arrived, and then we're going to go down to the hotel and have a breakfast, see what that's like, shop for some bread and bits and bobs like that, and then head off up Glen Tilt. I think that's where we're going today, so I'll be following the leader and having an easy day at Glen Tilt and finding a nice spot, apparently by the Falls of Dee, I think Lee said. So we'll pick this up a bit later on.
After a late start Wednesday morning, we went to the Blair Atholl hotel and had a full breakfast, which was okay. I think none of us were particularly super enamoured by it, but it was a full breakfast all the same. Had a good long chat. Tony arrived. Strangely, he had a bit of adventure on his trip, although he bought a ticket to Blair Atholl. When he tried to get off the sleeper train, they said it didn't stop at Blair Atholl. So they eventually took him round to, I think it was Aviemore. I'm not too sure now. And anyway, they paid for a taxi to run him back to Blair Atholl. So it wasn't that much later, but it was a surprise all the same. One thing we did find out from some other campers there on the campsite was just opposite the entrance to the Blair Atholl campsite, there's actually a cafe, which is tucked around the back of the museum. But they were singing their praises, saying what a superb meal it was, and also what a welcome they did get. So we went in there to see if we could get some breakfast this morning, but sadly they were closed and only open in the evenings during the off season. But if you're ever in Blair Atholl, try the cafe first. So we headed off along Glen Tilt. The weather's been fine up until now, and it's started a bit of drizzle, a bit of grey. Just spoken to a salmon fisherman who's not had much luck, but enjoying the day like us. And a beautiful glen it is too, really. If anybody wants a beautiful walk that's not too strenuous, then certainly Glen Tilt is the way to go. We're aiming to camp tonight at Falls of Tarf. There seems to be discussion amongst the three of us that there's a reasonable pitch there or not. I'm obviously just being led by the other guys who have been this way before. And I noticed that Tony's actually got a new rucksack, 6 Moons rucksack, and I think he's got a new tent as well, and a few other bits and bobs, so there's going to be plenty of gear chat going on perhaps a bit later on. We're all comparing each other's packs, which is quite interesting. As I say, it's sort of the base weight is around the 8.5-9k mark, less food and fuel, and we've picked each other's pack up and weighed them all accordingly, just roughly as you do, and they all seem pretty identical at the moment. So with food and water in, we're obviously around the 10k mark, and this peak is coping with that quite nicely, but I definitely feel this is as much as I want to carry. But it all goes in, well, in my case just goes in, and as one is wandering along, we're sort of talking out loud, thinking out loud about where possible we could actually reduce weight and bulk and make it a more comfortable journey. But having said that, we all agree that anything over 10k is getting back into being a little bit too heavy. Anything under 5k is ultralight, so we're happy to hover around the 9-10k, and if we can find something as time goes by that improves that, then so be it. But as you can hear, the rain stopped. It just comes and goes. Typical Scottish weather, really. But it's not too cold. The wind is actually behind us, going down the neck as it can be sometimes. So it's the hoods are up, but otherwise we're enjoying a very, very pleasant walk. And I'd thoroughly recommend it to anybody who wanted a gentle day out or a weekend. Start at Blair Atholl and head up here to Falls of Tarf, then round to Derry Lodge, back to Braemar, catch the bus to Blair Atholl or something similar. Be a lovely weekend, that. So, we'll catch up with you a bit later on. And almost 7 o'clock on, what day is it? Wednesday, isn't it?
Wednesday, yeah.
Yeah, Wednesday night, and we've camped up by the Falls of Tarf. Found a nice spot where we fitted all 3 tents, and Tony's been feeling a bit tired because obviously didn't have much of a good night's sleep last night coming up on the train. It was only the reclining seat, so he hasn't slept very well, so he's got his head down already. But Lee and I are just chewing the fat, and it's been a very pleasant walk actually today, isn't it?
Yeah, I've really enjoyed it. I've been this way a number of times, but I've never actually camped here near the Falls of Tarf, and I'm really pleased we have because it's just a fantastic spot. Sort of just nice little flat grass bit, and looking up at the mountains and the river running by us. It's just fantastic.
We were reflecting today, and I think I've said a few times probably on this podcast over the few days that we've been doing it, just what a treasure it is to have Scotland and their access and the ability to be able to do this, because the fact that you don't have to be on a set trail and a set campsite and all the rest of it, it's a wonderful facility that I think a lot of people probably don't realise, and we said ourselves that it seems, why have we only seen 1 or 2 people,
That's right, we have seen one backpacker today heading back to Blair Atholl, but no, you're quite right. There's that many tracks in the hills, whether it be deerstalkers tracks or just old military roads or just old tracks, rights of way. But I think if people realised how many there was, I think they would probably come and explore a little more.
Certainly, it's any weather, the rewards there, isn't it? Even when it's wet and miserable, there's still something enchanting about the place.
Oh, without doubt, and especially this time of the year, it's all
colours are
the
beautiful,
colours,
aren't they?
all the different browns and greens. It really is a special time to come, I always think, and I always try and make a week in September or certainly October to have a break and just enjoy the surroundings.
Well, you're a lucky man, really, because you manage to do it sort of 2 or 3 times a year, don't you? You get a bit of winter walking in, a bit of sort of summer, spring, and then obviously autumn.
Yeah, I'm very lucky that Trace doesn't mind me coming away as often as I do, and work is fairly relaxed. So yeah, I'm a very lucky man.
Now you're snuggled down into you got live jacket on, your live smock, and you're in your I always get it wrong. Helium, Marmot helium bag, and Tony was saying he had one and loved it as well. He obviously still very pleased with it.
Oh, it's an excellent bag. Yeah, it always lofts up really well, and it's quite roomy for a small chap like myself. I appreciate that, and but yeah, it just performs really well every time.
And I know you got the full length Neo Air. You pleased you did that rather than get the short like I've got?
Without doubt, yeah. Without doubt. With the old Pro Light, I had the 3/4 length, and I got a bit tired of my feet hanging over the edge, so I thought for just the little extra weight, it's well worth it, and I'm really pleased with it.
It's probably 12 months since I've probably walked with you, and I don't think there's been that many changes in the last 12 months, perhaps apart from the Neo Air. You're obviously, the Acto now is several years old from your point of view. Are you thinking about sort of moving on from this shelter to anything else that sort of takes your fancy? Because I know that the Henry Shires there that Tony's got is, it looks like a much bigger version of this, quite bomb-proof, isn't it?
Yeah, that is a really good tent, and as you say, it's very roomy, and you've got more head height and the twin doors, so you can take the opportunity of a view at both sides of your tent. But I like your tent and I like Tony's, but no, I've not made any decision, but I would like to sort of get the weight down on the tent side if possible.
Is there anywhere else that you feel, because we've been having this conversation today, haven't we, really, or the last few days, about this continual balance that you do between wanting to get the weight down, and we've all agreed that sort of 9, 10, anything over 10 is starting to feel heavy again, and anything under 5 is obviously ultralight, but it would be nice to creep a bit closer to the 5 than the 10, and we're all sort of discussing and thinking aloud that to do that you have to sacrifice something, and we all pretty well agree we don't really want to sacrifice any of the pleasure that we get from the comfort that having some of the equipment that we've got, like the down jacket and that sort of thing.
No, that's right. I think really I am quite happy with everything I've got really, but the tent is one thing that I do want to get down. But then I do enjoy tent life, and I do enjoy being comfortable in the room. So if I went to something like competition that would be that little bit smaller, I might be just a bit compromised on comfort.
Well, it's been lovely to camp today. It's been nice to make as much we had a lazy morning for different reasons. We've had a lovely gentle walk, and it's been nice to actually camp early and enjoy the camping.
Without doubt, yeah, that's it. Because that for me is, I love the walking, but certainly 50% of the time, the enjoyment is in the camping itself. I really, split it between the two, the walking and the camping is what I really enjoy doing.
So tomorrow's another fairly gentle walk, a late start, and over to Derry Lodge, which obviously I've been through myself, so I know that's a lovely flat pitch, lots of trees. I mean, the wind can catch it a few times. I know we've camped there before now, but a fairly gentle walk tomorrow.
Yeah, very gentle. Yeah, and not too many ups or downs. The only tricky bit is crossing Geldy Burn, but I've never had a problem really with it, but it certainly be up to the knees, I would say. Okay. But that's the only trouble, and as you said, Derry's a fantastic spot to camp.
No different to that lock that we crossed then? You have to wade that, it was up to our knees, wasn't it?
Yeah, no different to that really, as long as it don't sort of pour a rain all night and all day. But I don't think it'd be a problem, no.
And then after that, hoping to camp up at Loch Ettichin, and then over the top Ben McDewey back to Aviemore.
That's right, yeah. Hopefully we can camp there, depending on the weather. But looking forward to going to Ben McDewey and Cairngorm, and then drop down into Glenmore, I think it is, and then get back to the campsite and
prepare ourselves for going. Yeah, fish and chips and beer. Well, I hope they were better than the fish and chips last night. That was a bit disappointing, wasn't it?
Yes, the breakfast we had, the food last night was probably not up to the quality it should be, especially at the price that we paid. But that probably is unusual really for Scotland. Usually you get value for money, but a little bit disappointing. Yeah,
that cafe round the corner, the other people on the campsite were talking about, sounded much better value for money. They were certainly raving about it, weren't they?
That's right. I didn't know that was there, and I was here 2 years ago. But and there was a big sign that we missed. But it should have gone Specsavers, as we said.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I've enjoyed my home dehydrated pasta tonight, and I see you're on your pack and go rations. Reasonable meal?
Yeah, very nice. Yeah, shepherd's pie tonight, and that was really tasty. And I've got rice pudding with raisins for my dessert.
Oh, my word. Mine was dried fruit, and I've already had it. So, well, I think certainly the light's starting to pull in now, and the sun's definitely on its way down. I shall go and see if I've got my lightweight flask full of lightweight whiskey, and I'll come back and join you in a few minutes.
Oh, that sounds very nice, Bob. Thank you.
The home of UK-based audio and video podcasts for lovers of the great outdoors everywhere.
It's all about getting out and having much more fun.
After a comfortable night, we've finally made our way across the Geldy Burn, down to White Bridge, down towards Braemar, and then we've now bearing left to Derry Lodge. And Tony has finally awoken from his deep slumber of the night, and from a very restful night from all accounts.
Yes, a very restful night. After being up all night on Scotch rail, overnight sleeper, Caledonian sleeper, which I didn't get any sleep.
And not being dropped off at the right place.
Right, yeah, should have been dropped off at Blair Atholl, but I had to go to Aviemore, which put me in a bit of a panic. Of course, they're having Lee's and Bob's food rations for the next 4 days. So I had to get a taxi. Taxi was organised for me to get back to Blair Atholl, where I was about 2 hours late, and I was still waiting for their breakfast.
In the pub.
In the pub. Yeah.
Well, you certainly were a man with a a handful of new items which you were
Yes.
very proudly displaying to us yesterday when you arrived. New rucksack and a new tent. So let's talk about the rucksack first of all, because I'm sure people will be interested in hearing what it is and how it's different to anything else you've had in the past.
Yeah. Well, it's the 6 Moons Traveller Pack. It's a lightweight pack that weighs 32 ounces. That's with its pack supporting it. It's just a kilo in weight in our terms. It's a front panel loader, which makes packing and unpacking very easy. It's got a top pocket, which I always insist on having, because I'm not don't like roll down tops on the lightweight packs. So the features are perfect. It's got plenty of pockets, mesh pockets. It's got a pad pocket that acts as a back panel for the rucksack. Also, you can take the metal stays out and just use your sleeping mat as support. And initial use today, it's been perfect, very comfortable, and highly recommend if anybody's interested in it.
It's made from the Dyneema grid stop, from the same sort of material as the Go Light packs, and you've had the Go Light Pinnacle before, and as you say, you weren't very happy with the lack of top pocket.
Yeah.
Certainly, do you think a lot of these packs that are currently coming from perhaps more commercial producers are missing a trick or two by not having bigger mesh pockets on them?
Yes, definitely, because they're just so useful. You can keep your waterproofs in there, so you don't have to dig in the rucksack for them. They're just there at the side, easy to get out. If they're wet, you don't have to put them inside your pack. They just go in the mesh pocket. Job done. No worries about water in your rucksack. So people should be looking at the manufacturers, mesh all round really.
And do you find that it's taken a while to get used to packing it, or has it become a lot easier to pack from a front loader rather than a top loader?
No, it's just so easy. It's got a big zip front panel, double zip, and you put everything into bags, watertight bags, and it's just so easy to fill it. There's no squashing, stuffing things down a tube, there's none of that. It's just there in front of you, like loading a suitcase. It's that simple. Highly recommend it.
Going on your holidays?
Yeah. Well, that's what the pack is designed for, really. It's for the backpacker who wants to do travelling abroad as well. So he's got the best of both worlds. And the system does work.
Moving on to your new tent then. It looked extremely solid last night when you had that put up, and we were certainly comparing it to the Acto that Lee's got on the Power Lizard. Very similar sort of features and design structure, but yours was virtually rigid, I would say.
Yes, it was. Yeah, solid to the ends. The way the pole system's at the end, they angle out.
So can you just explain which tent it is?
It's the Scarp one, Henry Shire's Scarp one.
Okay.
Yes, Shine Island, single hoop pole, two doors either side, and nylon inner. You can get a mesh inner, but I had the nylon inner. There's supposed to be crossover poles that you can use in severe weather, but I decided not to purchase them because I think it's overkill personally.
It certainly wasn't. I mean, it was only a mild breeze last night, but whereas ours were flexing slightly in the wind, yours was. I think definitely those sort of 8 corner poles were carbon fibre rods, I presume, that were really holding the corners steady.
Yes, they hold, and they come out at an angle, so it forms like a pyramid on the corner, which is really strong. I've actually seen on the internet a guy leaning his body weight on top of these two on the corner, and it is very strong. I've also added some extra guidelines to the centre pole, just for a bit more stabilising. But last night it'd been a wet day, and I'm sure it must have rained during the night, but to be honest with you, I was in a deep sleep. But there was absolutely no condensation inside the tent, none whatsoever on the fly sheet inside. And all I'd done was I left the doors unzipped, but there's a clasp knot on the bottom that you can just clip together and the door is open, but not zipped up.
Right.
And the top vents, it's got 2 top vents, which I left closed, and there was no condensation, so I was very pleased about that.
I noticed the SCART one, but I reckon the floor space in there is certainly able to take 2 relatively comfortably.
Yes, it would take 2, because you've got the 2 porches, so there's storage space on either side for people's wet gear and rucksacks. And inside, it's a bit of a squeeze, but you could easily get 2 in there, no problem whatsoever. For me, it's a luxury.
And what's the total weight of all that?
The total weight is about 1.2 kilos, but that's without the crossover poles. I think if you had the crossover poles, obviously, it would take the weight up to about 1.4.
That's very, very reasonable, isn't it, for the certainly for the amount of space you've got coverage there?
Yeah, very reasonable, very reasonable.
So those are your 2 new purchases. You really happy with them?
Excellent purchases, yes. No regrets at all. Highly recommended to anybody.
And I guess you'll be using them on the challenge then if you're successful next year?
Yes, I will be using them on the challenge. Although the scarf has been used on the challenge, that's where I first really saw it.
Oh, it's not recent then, that one?
Yeah. I saw them on people using them on the challenge, 1 or 2 of them, and I decided to purchase one. But the thing is, with the exchange rate and the import tax you have to pay, it does tend to push the price up. So that's the only drawback to it, really.
Now, what would your advice be on seam sealing? Because the one thing about the American tents when they arrive is they have to be seam sealed by the user. You got any advice or tips on people that have to consider that?
Well, the best thing to do, I would say to anybody, if you go on YouTube, people who have got the moment, and there's videos on there that people are there showing you how to seam seal it. And I just followed Henry Shire's what to do. He just said get some silicone. I got some clear silicone from B&Q, and I mixed it up in a little salmon tin. Obviously the salmon wasn't in there. And I put a bit of Coleman fuel, which he said you can use. So I mixed up with a bit of that, and you got to get it to a liquid state. Yeah. And then just brush it on. I wasn't too fussy with brushing it on, but just on the seams, inside and out. Job done in a half hour.
And no problems?
No problems. No leaks whatsoever.
Brilliant.
Yeah. So.
Good. All right, the rest of your kit then, is it the same what you've always used? I see you've got some new Innovate boots, which Lee, I think, has persuaded you to invest in. Do you feel that's been a good investment so far?
Yes, well, I'm a convert now to wet feet. It's not a problem. People should just try it. I was scared at first, and I think most people would be with the thought of wet feet. But after the initial rush of water crossing the river, 5 minutes, less than that even, your feet are warm again. All the water's pumped out. Brilliant. Yeah. And for comfort, brilliant. I used to suffer from sore feet from having too stiff boots and bracer boots. I'd get blisters and everything. Now, I don't have any problems now with my feet. So I'd recommend that to anybody.
Well, certainly all 3 of us, I think, have had the same sort of experiences there, which is, there's nothing worse than being miserable in camp with sore feet. It's definitely... Well, it's been a lovely day's walking, hasn't it?
It's been fantastic. I mean, I joined Bob and Lee on Wednesday, and it was raining yesterday. Not heavy, but it was warm. But it's been a pleasure. Fantastic.
And it looks like we're in for a lovely night tonight as well. We're heading towards Derry Lodge because I'm told there's some good spots there.
Yeah, and the weather's improving by the looks of things.
Yep.
So that's it. So hopefully I'll try and stay away tonight so I can entertain them.
Excellent. Well, we'll look forward to having that conversation a bit later on then.
It's just gone 7 o'clock, and we made it today to Derry Lodge by about 4:30 on what was a very, very enjoyable walk. The weather was on our side. It had a few drops of rain at one stage, but nothing particularly unpleasant. So we've enjoyed an excellent afternoon of great company, good banter, and chewing the fat, putting the world to rights, discussing every topic that you do when you're together with a bunch. everything from religion to lightweight backpacking equipment and designs that need to be made. So, as you can imagine, we're well and truly rested. We arrived here and took our time setting up the tents. Derry Lodge, for people who know it, is a magnificent camping spot and really is one of the treasures of the Highlands. A weaving stream meanders its way across the plain. There's a whole sort of forest of trees, all of which are spaced out, so there's plenty of camping spots in little alcoves and nooks and crannies, and as you watch the sunset, the trees all are lit up, backlit, and there's a mist in the air, and it is a wonderful, very, very romantic camping spot, which we've all enjoyed as we've had our individual meals, chewed the fat a bit more, and even though we haven't walked the greatest distance, although it's only we've done 20k today, easily 20k actually, we've all happily retired to our respective sleeping bags, as I say, at 7 o'clock. I can't believe I've actually spent the whole week going to bed at 7 o'clock at night, but it's going to be a clear night tonight, looking at the sky, so that means a starry night, which would be beautiful to watch, but it's already quite cold, so it's better to be tucked in away, listening to your iPod or whatever, and settling down for the night. So on that note, I'm going to bid you good night, and we'll see what happens tomorrow. The plan tomorrow is to walk to Loch Ettichin, ready for an assault on Ben Macdui the following day, and then head back to the campsite at Aviemore, either down the Larragrew walk and through the forest, or through the ski centre, which is a route I've not been on before. I've not been up Ben Macdui actually before either, and that's something I've wanted to do for a couple of years. Don't know why, it's just got this sort of romantic image of the grey man, and all the stories associated with it. And I know that if you catch it on a good day, the views are fantastic. So fingers crossed that our good fortune with the weather holds, and we have a very enjoyable last couple of days before we get back to Aviemore. So good night from me.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. To hear more from our extensive free library, please visit the website at theoutdoorstation.co.uk.
You can now follow The Outdoor Station on Facebook, where we chat about each programme we produce, answer questions and discuss future productions. Why not join us there?
This podcast is produced and hosted by theoutdoorstation.co.uk.